Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Calling Out Creatures. And I am your host, Lori, which I hope most of my listeners that are faithful know by now. But tonight we're going to discuss a really helpful topic, I should say, about traveling with your pets and some of the things that you're going to need and some of the things that you should know about when you travel with your pets. I have Lauren Anderson Brown on with me, and she is the CEO and founder of PadsPass. And she's going to give us all sorts of great information about this app and stuff that she came up with, and that helps you guys with your travels and stuff like that. So, Lauren, thank you so much for being on the podcast to talk about this tonight. I think it's a really good topic to talk about.
Thanks, Lori. I'm so happy to be here, and it's a topic that's obviously very close and meaningful to my heart.
Right. Yeah, I know. Well, you can tell us about what got you going with this here in just a second, but for the listeners that are kind of maybe new to you and your work, could you share a little bit about your background and what led you into the world of storytelling and global travel and things like that?
Absolutely. So I grew up around the film industry, a studio in New York specifically, and I always wanted to work with cameras. I loved looking behind a lens. I learned how to load film. I mean, I would get coffee. I would do anything I could to try and kind of be around cameras. I did black and white photography and then studied film. And then as soon as I got out of college, I then joined the union, started working on TV shows and feature films and movies. And I spent a lot of time on set, so I knew a lot of the different roles really well and realized that I felt like I didn't want to be on set anymore, actually. I wanted to take what I learned and go into the field and film real stories, documentaries. And so then I ended up landing kind of in this niche of doing global health and human rights all over the world in many different countries. I did a documentary with Atul Gawande on the surgical safety checklist implementation around the world, which is kind of crazy to think that we didn't have a standard for doing surgery around the world before then. Everyone would just do it differently. And it was interesting going, I've worked for a lot of different organizations like the United Nations and other small charities since then. And so travel has always been a huge part of my career and my life and my livelihood. And then in addition to that, I ended up in a relationship overseas with someone in the UK, and so making that work at first had a lot of travel in it, and amongst all of that was my dog, was my anchor, and her name was Paddington. She was a brown and white King Charles Cavalier that I was actually inspired to try and find. She was adopted, but I first fell in love with Cavaliers when I was on the set of Sex and the City. And Charlotte's dog was a brown and white Blenheim. Its name was Penny. And I got to meet Penny's handler. And I got to spend a whole day with Penny asleep on my lap. And I just knew in that moment, like, when I can have a dog, this is the dog I'm going to have. And so then I sought out different Cavaliers that needed adoption. I found my dog, drove 7 hours to pick her up because I couldn't fly at the time. This was before I started traveling with the dog. And then I traveled with Paddington for 10 years, and we went to 9 different countries and on 75 flights, and I was one of those people that traveled with a dog before traveling with a dog was known or cool. I would camp out at the USDA office at JFK, if anyone remembers when those were around, to try and get my paperwork endorsed and my appointments before I would travel. And one of those 75 flights, I booked her vet appointment too close to our arrival time because we were going to the UK, and then she received the wrong dewormer from the veterinarian, even though I asked for a different one, and the airport wrongly approved all of it, and when we landed, they rescinded it and they took her from me. And that was the moment when I just realized how much I was trying to manage on my own with pet travel, with animal travel. It's a lot, and that it's a broken system of documents and papers and errors and human errors, and the pets are the perfect ones, and I really want to try and do something to change that.
Well, I'm glad, that you came up with this idea to, change all that stuff. I'm sorry all of that happened to you. Like I was saying before we started, I did animal control and stuff, and that's why I was so interested in having you on to talk about this, because you'd be amazed at how many people, don't realize all of the things and requirements you have to go through in order to travel with your pets to other countries, or even here in the States to Hawaii, because they have a lot of requirements and things like that as well. And a lot of people would either, relinquish their animals to the shelter because, they didn't get everything done in time, or just because a good part of them, I guess, probably didn't even want to take their animals with them, which always amazed me, because I would never go anywhere or do anything, without my animals with me. And so, so I was so happy to be able to have you on and talk about this, to kind of let people know, about what you went through, and why you decided to start this PadsPass app, because I think it's a really great thing for people to have something like this to be able to use for their travel. And
absolutely. And you never know when you're going to travel, Lori. I mean, I think you brought up some really good points that, yes, I fall into the category of someone who travels constantly with their dog. I just got some paperwork done this morning for a trip that I'm going on with my dog on Saturday. But for some people, it's maybe a once-in-a-lifetime move with an animal. And, right now I'm based on a small island as well. You mentioned Hawaii. I'm actually in Bermuda. In Bermuda, we have pretty strict import regulations, and they're not impossible, but they're strict. You have to have at least 2 rabies shots. They have to be given in a certain period of time, depending upon the rabies endemic levels of where you're coming from. And I know that all sounds really like, whoa, that's a lot to take in, right? And it is. It is a lot to take in. And that's why, as humans, we shouldn't do that. That's why we should harness technology to do that for us. We will get things wrong. We are human, and that's okay. We're fallible. But, technology doesn't if we instruct it in the right ways and we set up the right boundaries for it. And it can then help you make better decisions when it comes to, I have to move off island. Can I take my animal with me? Right. Or I have to move off, or my animal's really sick and actually needs more help, and I have to, medevac out. Can I actually return with my animal, right? And there's all these instances where animals are becoming, the human-animal bond is amazing, and we're becoming more and more reliant on them as part of our ecosystem, as part of our family. And the thought of being separated them for many of us is just horrifying. So many people don't know where to start, Lori. It's, right. Sometimes, yes, it's the fact that they don't want to go through the effort once they figure out what it is, but for some people, they're just, I didn't even think that was possible, right? And so that's one of the huge inspirations for me, is that, we make our software ends up making a customized checklist custom to your animal. So you're not looking at general advice that can be confusing and difficult to take in or understand, or you don't know what the next step is or what you exactly have to do. All of that is laid out based on your animal's specific health when you create a PadsPass account and you upgrade to the digital pet passport. So it's a place where health, identity, and travel all come together and collide and take this really emotionally charged moment in time for some people and just make it calm, easy, and stress-free. And, as someone who has lived with the chaos of traveling with an animal for 13 years, I can say 13 years in, it is still stressful every time, although it is getting easier using the software, because even in the last year, I've seen such changes with the way people receive it, right? And it is kind of magical to see that as the founder, I'm not going to lie. But last Thanksgiving when I went away, I had to once again camp out in a veterinarian's office who was like, nope, absolutely not, this newfound software thing, not doing it, et cetera, et cetera. They eventually did, but, it took a lot of time, right? Yeah. I had to rebook a veterinary appointment over Thanksgiving to a different practice I'd never been to before, didn't preface them, and I was like, right, this is either going to cost me a ton of money for them to use my software or take a ton of time like it has before. Lori, how long do you think I was in and out of that vet appointment? You've been around animals like your whole career, right? So like how long on average is your normal vet appointment, you would say?
Well, I guess on average, if they don't have any type of an emergency, I know with my dog, I am probably usually in for a normal vet appointment. It might take half hour, 45 minutes.
I was in and out in 15 minutes.
That's awesome. That is really awesome.
They completed an error-free health certificate for Bermuda, and then that was on a Saturday. Monday morning, it was approved.
That is awesome. Now I have to ask, do you still have Paddington or a different dog now that you travel with?
I have a different dog now. I did get Paddington back after that episode, and she definitely helped to shape, the beginning and the origins of PadsPass. That's actually, her nickname was Pads. So not only is the pad of the foot of an animal in the name, but her name is as well. But now I have Peru. Oh, okay. And Peru has taught me a whole different way of traveling. Peru, he's a boy dog. He's also a Cavalier. But he's actually helped me learn kind of how important carrier training is. How different animals can react differently to different carriers. And how not one carrier is like the standard or like right for every animal. Paddington loved one kind of carrier. She was obsessed with it, so happy with it, so easy. Peru did not care for that carrier. It was too bright, too light, too anxious. He likes like a cozier, even though this one is slightly smaller that he likes now. And he likes it so much, Lori, sometimes he can get a bit obsessed with it when we travel. And that's when we go in and ask for the private screening at TSA on those days, when he's like, I don't want to get out of this carrier, I love it too much. So I think the wonderful thing is I've had an amazing spectrum of like super easy pet travel to super difficult pet travel over the years, and I think that's something else that I love about what I do is I'm now kind of digitizing all of that data and information and lived experience into PadsPass, so people know, because honestly some of the information, we go to the Facebook groups and we can ask in the forums and everything like that, but there's so many opinions and it can be so difficult to filter it down, just the noise, and to look for the signal, right? Like the signal of, just tell me what I need, and what my dog needs for this trip, on these dates, for this destination. That's all I want. And that's what all the pet parents want in these groups, right? But everyone has a different opinion, and some people have great advice and guidance, and some don't. And it can be really difficult to sift through that and to know where is the source of truth, right? And it doesn't help that government websites, airlines, other transportation providers, and then all these different websites have all these different places of information, and none of it is in one place. And that has been one of the biggest accomplishments PadsPass has done, is pulling together these dynamic, easy to change, accurate travel requirements that can be programmed in according to like start and end dates, all the different things that go into pet travel. Like, we've figured it out to the T when it comes to all the different things you'd have to think of from an import, export, health, and transportation perspective. And it's pretty, I don't know, it's pretty incredible. I'm still kind of amazed at some of the things I can program into it. I'm like, can I do this? Yes, I can. And if it's not there, our dev team is then like on it and builds it out for the next week, which is pretty cool too. So,
so would you say that that's probably one of the biggest problems you've seen, with the pet traveling and stuff, that wasn't really getting solved effectively, was all the different, you mentioned, a lot of the different changes, and that nobody actually has kind of the same information across the board between each other and stuff like that?
Yes, 100 times over, Lori. And also, they don't even have the same information within their one company.
I can understand
one country,
that.
Or their, like, the information. I mean, sometimes we're testing things out ourselves within an airline. So, like, for an example, we had a VIPP, so we have very important pet parents, and they have a slightly higher level of service where we do kind of more hands-on customer service for them. And they wanted to go on a trip. They wanted to see if they could fly with their dog out of the UK to Denmark. And now you can fly out of the UK, you can fly in with a pet, and so we're like, okay, let's look to see what's there. So go to an airline that says all pets can fly out. You ask the chatbot, yep, they can fly out. You ask specifically from the UK, yes, the chatbot says again from the UK. There's still not enough on there for us to fully believe it, or my team members to fully believe it. So one of my team members goes, buys a refundable ticket, then tries to add the pet, and guess what? She can't.
Oh, jeez.
And so it's and you can ask ChatGPT, you can ask any of the LLMs. You know, there's not one specific in that sense, but they would say the exact same thing, that everything we got from that airline's information. And so this goes just back to the fact that this information is actually so niche and sometimes so difficult that not even one provider can be consistent with the accurate information for everything they do or they don't offer.
Right. I mean, that's crazy that it's so, I mean, even within the same company, but you know what? I understand that because I have worked for several different governments over the years, local, I haven't worked state, but I've worked for several different, and it's kind of the same thing. You just never really, I mean, it's always kind of different. You really never know all the time, but yeah, I can understand how that would be, you know, quite the problem when not even the, you know, airline itself is telling you different things, and you're looking at things and it says, oh yeah, you can do this, but then you can't. I know my boss actually kind of encountered a little bit of that. She was seeing someone from the UK, and she lives here in the States, and she had gone to see him, and then he was going to come over here, and it was kind of during that COVID time, and you know, and trying to figure out what he had to do or she had to do to go there and him to come here. It was crazy because it would say one thing on the website, but they'd call and find something else out. So, I mean, you know, they do it for people. I couldn't just imagine the horror for a pet. But, yeah, that's crazy. But so
and animals can carry different diseases than humans, right? Like, I do try and help people understand who have never traveled with a pet. It's like, do you remember what it was like during COVID? Like, your example was great. That is the closest thing some people will ever understand to what it's like, trying to understand all the different rules and all the different, you know, if this then that. I mean, that is what pet travel is. It is trying to take all of that into account and then customizing it for your pet, for your travel schedule, and knowing if you can even take a trip or not, and how to and who to take that trip with. And that's one of the things that we make so easy, right? So in PadsPass, you go to plan a trip. You go in, right now we're adding features all the time. Right now we're just focusing on in-cabin animal travel. So you can put in your 2 different airport destinations. It shows you all the different airline options that are possible. And then when you select it, it gives you not only that airline carrier's requirements and steps to complete in order to add your pet and to make sure you're compliant, but then also the destination.
Right.
And everything that's custom to that destination, that's also according to your pet, and also considering your origin, where you're coming from.
Right.
These are all things that, you know, we don't think, we have our passport, we look to see if the country accepts it, and then we go, you know. It doesn't matter kind of what countries have you been in the last 6 months sometimes. Sometimes it does, but, you know, and then what diseases might you have on you kind of a thing.
Right.
And, you know, because there's biodiversity that has to be protected in places. I totally get it. You know, if anything, I love what we're building because it makes that so much easier and understandable for people. And where I'm based right now in our first big market, Bermuda, we don't have ticks. We don't have ticks here. So, like, one of the requirements to travel back into Bermuda, which sometimes can be difficult for people to kind of understand, is that they have to have an external parasite treatment applied by a veterinarian before you come back. Like, you can't just do it yourself. And that's because we don't want ticks here.
Right.
We don't have them here. We don't want them here,
right.
You know? And so these things are really important, you know. It's not about making loopholes, you know, when it comes to pet travel. It's kind of just, it's clearing through the forest, right? It's like there's so much to try and get through and understand, but people want to do it. How, out of curiosity, Lori, if you had to guess, how many cats do you think flew in the U.S. last year?
Oh my God! Cats that flew in the U.S. last year?
At least once, yeah.
I'm actually going to go with I don't know if I want to go with a lower number or a higher number, but Just because I know how people, especially with cats, it's worse than they are with dogs.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me that people will like relinquish a cat when they're probably, I would think, an easier one to take with you in a carrier than a dog. But I'm going to say 500-600 maybe.
39 million cats flew last year.
Oh my God, I was way low. That's crazy.
15 million dogs flew 3 times or more. Those are the latest numbers from APO last year.
Good gosh. Oh my gosh. I mean, that's a lot of animals that are going flying around the different countries and within the US and all of that's crazy. That's a lot of animals and pets flying. So, oh my gosh, I was way low. I really wouldn't have thought about that many, but then I guess I'm not really thinking about how, worldwide. I'm kind of stuck here, but
No, that was just in the U.S.
Oh, that was just in the U.S.? Oh, my God.
No, but we haven't had those numbers before. It's like, I think this is just because I've been doing this for so long, and then I started to see more and more people be more present at the places that I was at, that I started to realize, okay, there's a market here. Like, more people are I'm not the weird person anymore that's kind of, camping out the USDA office. Like, there's more people that are asking and wanting to do this.
Yeah.
And like, even in its short version, like, PadsPass has been around for 2 years, right? But like, we didn't have the numbers when we started. It was more like we had to try and dig for them and look for them, and like, we knew this was an issue, but we didn't have defensible data like that. And now that it's here, it's even bigger than we thought it was.
I guess, my good grief, that's crazy. But and I got to stop because we keep saying PadsPass and talking about it, but there might be quite a few listeners out there that haven't actually heard of PadsPass because, like you said, it's been around for a couple years, but it's still fairly new. So why don't you just real quick go ahead and tell us what PadsPass actually is and how it works for pet owners?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Lori. So PadsPass is an app you can download in the App Store or Google Play. When you download it, you get to experience the free version of it, which is called our PadsPass Pet ID. That allows you to put your microchip number in, upload some documents, like basic things in that sense, add a photo of your pet, and then when you get ready to travel, or you want to travel, or you get told you have to move, for example, we talked about that before, relocate, you can upgrade to our subscription called the Digital Pet Passport. And what the Digital Pet Passport does is it takes your animal's verified health information, so when you upload those documents, we actually ask the veterinarian who administered either the vaccine or the treatment or scanned the microchip to verify that they did so, and that information gets held in there that's verified. And it gets codified by AI, and I know that sounds really complex, but what it does is it takes these paper documents that you've been carrying around or you've had, makes them digital, and then takes that information, and when you go to then start to plan your trip, tells you exactly what you need to be able to make that trip according to your pet's information. And that's why that is really important. You could start using the trip planner instantly. You might see a lot of red if you did that, because depending upon where you want to go to. So you'd see the steps you have to do to make all of the requirements green, but it shows you not only country import requirements, it shows you if your country that you're leaving has any export requirements. It also shows you your transportation providers requirements. So right now, PadsPass focuses on in-cabin airline travel within the U.S., Canada. We also include Puerto Rico and Bermuda, where I'm based right now. And so I've been working on this from Bermuda for the last couple years. I was part of the accelerator program here. We've been prototyping it with government, and we've had 100% success rate so far using what we have as the health certificate generator for Bermuda. And that is the last step when you want to travel to Bermuda to be able to enter. You have to have a vet appointment. And honestly, veterinarians, my heart goes out to them because they went to school to care for animals. They didn't go to school to fill out documentation. And so some of the stresses and the struggles that I've had over the 13 years of traveling with an animal is that the veterinarians can be resistant to it because it's just stuff that they didn't study. It's more time that they're taken away from giving urgent care to animals that really need it, and they don't want to get it wrong, at the end of the day. And so we built this as part of PadsPass is a way to fill out this information without any errors. There's all kinds of safety checks in place. It explains everything for them super easily in that checklist. And as I described at the beginning of the show, the last time I just used it, the veterinarian was able to use it in 15 minutes, and I was out the door. So It saves a ton of time for them.
That's awesome, because I was actually going to ask, how the veterinarians and clinics and stuff are responding to PadsPass so far, but it sounds like if I could do something like that as a veterinarian, I'd be happy with it.
Absolutely. Veterinarians are our allies. So when you sign up and become a verified veterinary practice with PadsPass, it's absolutely free for the veterinarian. When you subscribe to the digital pet passport for the travel, that's, on the pet parent, the cost is with them. But for our veterinarians, it's absolutely free because we understand the burden that they've carried for all these years when it comes to pet travel. And there's just more and more pets traveling. As we said, there's more and more requests that are out there. And so we want to help and support them in this and make it as easy for them as possible and really, give them the confidence when it comes to understanding one of their clients' needs when it comes to pet travel. We take care of the travel questions, and they just take care of the verification of the existing documents that they already did. So the rabies certificates, any kind of microchip scans or treatments, or lepto, bordetella. And honestly, Lori, sometimes, we talked about always trying to help animals go, especially ones that might get left behind or adopted out. But not every trip is made for every pet, and so sometimes animals have to stay at shelters, boarding facilities, or dog hotels, cat hotels. You get the whole array of different options nowadays, right? And you need to make sure your animal's health is okay for that too. And this is just a great way to keep all that information in one place and not have to go through your emails or. Gosh, how many times, even me, having made this software, have I been asked for a PDF of something? And I'm like, I have it. His last heartworm test? Yeah, I have that somewhere. Where is it?
Right, exactly. It's like,
I know we have it.
Yeah, I know. I really do. And it's funny because, and we've talked about, a little bit, too, about how the pet travel rules are varying, from country to country, and actually sometimes quite a bit they vary. So, with that being said, how does PadsPass stay up to date and help prevent mistakes that could happen?
That's a really great question. So, we've started with our few jurisdictions to start, and we add them on as we can battle test them. And what battle testing looks like, sometimes it is actually physically going to the place. All the places that we have right now currently, we've all tried and tested with PadsPass. They are completely 100% battle tested. And the reason for that, Lori, is because there's sometimes information, specifically when it comes to going to a different country than the government requirements, the information can be extremely scattered when it comes to what you have to do with an animal when you're arriving and also when you're leaving. And so what we've built into PadsPass is kind of basically anything we've tried and tested ourselves for now, and we're going to be continuing that. So this year we've tested out a few different jurisdictions. A great example is Barbados.
Okay.
And I studied, I had everything down, including the heartworm test that I just mentioned. Barbados is actually probably the hardest country I've been to, believe it or not. So I've got all the requirements done, including a customs clearance officer that I had to submit the paperwork on my behalf when I was there. And then as soon as I landed and the veterinarian cleared everything at the airport, the customs officer goes, "Oh, so when are you leaving?" And I was like, "Sunday." And he's like, "Right. So you have to do your exit paperwork tomorrow."
Oh, darn. Oh, my God.
I had been in close communication with a government vet who never once mentioned exit paperwork. And I was just like, no, you can't be right. I don't need to do the exit paperwork, And anyway, I had to do the import paperwork for Bermuda, so I did it at the same time. But it meant I also had to go back to a different place to get a red stamp on this one piece of paper. And Lori, I was so ready to show up at the airport and be like, they're never going to ask me for this piece of paper. No one's going to care about this piece of paper. This was the biggest waste of time, right?
Uh-huh.
Lori, the only thing they asked me for at the airport was that piece of paper with a red stamp on it.
Of course.
And I got asked for it 3 times.
Oh my gosh.
And literally the night before I went to go and chase around to get that red stamp on it, I had messaged the government vet to say, do I really need this? And she's like, yes, you really need this. And I was like, do you think it would have been helpful to tell me this before you came?
We're not kidding. You really need this one piece of paper. Forget the rest. We just need that one.
Exactly. So adding a jurisdiction, it means we need to battle test it. Sometimes it means us actually going there, living it out because of reasons like this. Depends on the country and the situation. But we also, we're looking to kind of bring PadsPass champions on board with us too. So if there's routes or destinations that people want, I'd say if you subscribe to the Digital Pet Passport, reach out to us. We want to then add those different destinations for you, and we'd love to trial them with you as we're building this technology because it's really exciting and dynamic. We can make adjustments for those import and those export things, like I said. And the best way we learn, like we love learning, and the best way we learn is by doing.
Right, and if you have people that can help you out by submitting their information and stuff like that, like you said, for these different jurisdictions and countries and stuff like that, oh my gosh, what a big help that would be for you guys to get that information and maybe not have to go through all of that yourselves to figure it out. So that would be
Listen, Lori, I just learned there's a whole other layer of there's the customs requirement. Right? So there's not just the government health requirement, but then there's and this is part of the hard part that, pets are still considered property, right?
Yep.
When you're traveling. So it doesn't always come up when it's a movement of a personal pet, but every now and then, yes, every country has its own rules. They can institute that at any point in time. Also, the other big thing that we didn't talk about is that disease endemic levels can change at any point in time. Mm-hmm. And so we always have to be ready to change and adjust for that too. And so we have an amazing team. We have 2 veterinarians working with us, and also just people that generally care and are involved with some of the animal health organizations that we're a part of. And so we read those reports. We get those daily digests to be able to be like, oh, okay, interesting. Screwworm is becoming a bit more threatening in Mexico. Let's watch to see how they handle domestic pets still when it comes to that. Because right now, PadsPass, for anyone who doesn't know, only takes dogs and cats. Sorry to the other animals at the moment, but that's all we're able to accommodate right now.
Hey, if you're flying with a bird or a lizard or something like that, I guess, I could understand. That could be a really big challenge. I mean, especially the birds because of different, like with dogs and cats, birds have all, different diseases and things like that, and they could bring them into other places. I mean, we just had a big thing going on, with chickens with the avian, the bird flu and stuff like that. So, I mean,
Oh, Lori, I still get the alerts for avian flu, so it's still out there. I definitely feel for the birds right now. It's hard.
Yeah. So in building this tool that you've been building for pet travel, what would you say has been the biggest challenge for you guys in building it?
I think
I'd say just wading through all the crazy bureaucratic stuff that you got to know.
Yeah, so we've built a platform that brings together all of these requirements and all of these different, user groups, if you want to say that. And it's a lot to keep all the user groups engaged and stay allied with them, right? What the messaging that veterinarians want to and need to hear is different to the pet parents, and it's different to the governments. It's not that they all don't, they all love PadsPass, but just trying to kind of continue the momentum of it all can be challenging in that sense of trying to kind of keep up with everyone. That's one problem when you build one platform for so many different groups, I would say. Another is kind of how emotional this problem can be for people like the pet parents specifically. It's a really stressful thing to travel, and it's even way more stressful to travel with your pet. I still don't breathe out until I'm kind of on solid ground of my destination of where I'm going to, and I do that last check, especially after what happened to me, right? And I think some of the other things is that there's just so many requirements to overcome that at times it can feel overwhelming, but also I think if you the way we've broken it down is really helpful, and just getting people to kind of trust in that tool and to try it out. I really hope people can download the app, and if people, Lori, this is a good time. Can I share about the offer we're making for anyone who's listening today? If they download and
go ahead.
to Digital Pet Passport.
Yeah, go ahead and put it out there.
We need more users, and we'd love to have more users from calling all creatures. So we are offering to anyone who's listening today that subscribes to the Digital Pet Passport before the end of this year, $50 off. So you can use the coupon code CallingCreatures50. Use our link on our website, PadsPass.com, to check out and put in the coupon code there, and we'll be able to upgrade your app that way. So if you need to, you can also download it from the App Store, but you're not going to be able to use the coupon code there. So you need to go to our website, PadsPass.com, navigate to the Digital Pet Passport page, sign up for the subscription for the Digital Pet Passport. It's a yearly subscription of $249.99, but you get it for under $200 for listening today if you put in the coupon code and you sign up before the 2026, when we're going to be adding more jurisdictions. We're going to have more features that are coming, and I'm just really excited to kind of build this platform out more with more of our users. So we need the users to be able to tell us, where do you want to go next? Where should we put our focus on? What airlines or what modes of transportation do you want? And the best way you can do that is if you sign up and you get in touch with us.
Perfect. Yeah. So, and I will definitely put that out on the Facebook page for you guys as well to get that discount, because if you travel, especially, if you travel even once or twice with your pets, I really think that this app would be so worth it, because it's going to make your life so much easier being able to have all of your stuff in one place digitally, where you can just, if you can pull it up on your phone and go, hey, it's right here, or, your iPad, whatever, it would be so much easier than, I've got an envelope full of paperwork here that I can show you, I know, believe me, I know traveling and paperwork, so.
I just got my dog's, because we are going digital, but some places still require paper, right? So we're traveling on Saturday. We just had to get paperwork done today, and Lori, my folder literally broke. He's only 3 years old, and we have so many papers that it already broke. So I have to get a new folder now. Hopefully I can just digitize everything, but it's a lot in there to digitize his whole travel history. But yeah, it's a lot, and I have to say, there's a huge benefit even if you don't travel that much, because you can store up to 5 pets' health information in the one place. Awesome. You can have it verified, like I said, for anyone who rents a home or has, requirements maybe by your building or management. You can show that your animal's in good health that way by having all the verified documents in one place. So even if you don't travel, you can still have your documents verified. And even just one relocation move pays for itself, because pet travel consultants, that is a whole industry now. Oh, yeah. And they are not inexpensive, because pet travel is in general quite expensive, right?
Right.
Just for anyone who doesn't know, like a pet and cabin fee can range from $95 to $200, and that's just for a small pet to go at your feet underneath, right? Mm-hmm. A pet travel consultant starts at $300 an hour.
Yeah.
So we priced it to the point where you can plan unlimited trips. You can, for up to 5 pets, and upload as many documents as you want to store that you need to in there. We'll onboard your veterinary practice for you, and you get all that for the year. Plus, you're going to lock in the rate. As we add more destinations, the price is going to go up.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to throw this out to my service dog teams and our organization that I train for, because some of our teams, they fly, and that's why they're getting their dogs, so they have those to fly. It would probably make their life so much easier and less anxiety if they were able to have something like this, to have those documents and stuff handy when they're going into the airports to travel. I mean, because some of them are traveling for holidays, even as we speak. I've got a couple teams that are going away for the holidays. So, I mean, so much less anxiety if they knew they had all of this stuff available with the health records and stuff like that, where they could just go, hey, it's right here, let me show you. Because, I mean, it's a bit when you have to go through airport security and all that stuff and have all that paperwork. So I think it would be great I'm going to put this out there for those guys so that they know about it as well in case they're interested in, getting it. But I also wanted to ask real quick, what do you think, as we've been talking about all this, obviously I think I kind of know some of the more common mistakes that people make when they're going to travel with their pets, especially going internationally. What do you kind of think is the most common mistakes that people are making when they're traveling with their pets? And do you have any kind of advice you could maybe give to someone who's traveling with their pet for the first time?
Those are great questions. Yes. So most common pet travel mistakes I see. People assume that the rules are the same everywhere. Here in Bermuda, I can't tell you how many airline staff members we've spoken to who have had to turn people around because they didn't realize that the animal needed an import permit. They didn't realize the animal needed the tick treatment. They didn't realize, they just thought they could. They literally had to get back on the plane that went back off island because there's no quarantine here. So just assuming that you go from one state to the next, that everything's going to be okay. Or that you're going to cross over and then you're going to be able to return is another big issue, because if you come from a rabies-free jurisdiction like where we are right now, or where I am right now in Bermuda, and you go to a place where rabies is considered endemic, which is even considered in the U.S., then if you don't have your rabies vaccines in order, it's a 7-month separation from your animal. Your animal has to stay stateside for 7 months, and you have to board it somewhere. And there's no exceptions. Booking flights before confirming whether a pet can travel on it, whether there's room for it, just assuming you can throw your pet on there, that's a big issue. Thinking that your rabies vaccines are good just because you gave it to them. They could be expired, they could be the wrong kind. Going to the Facebook groups. I love a good Facebook group chat, but honestly, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Oh, and, yes, there is. Yes, there is. And just underestimating how early you need to start with this, because if you've never traveled with your pet, you got to start way earlier than you think, or at least start thinking about it and planning, setting up your account. We recommend starting, at least a month, subscribing to the digital pet pass for at least a month before you want to travel, because for most places you can probably get things in order if you need to by then. But you get an animal vaccinated, it needs to wait before it can actually be considered active, and that's just standard. That's sometimes not even according to different jurisdictions. You shouldn't put that pressure on your animal when they're traveling for the first time. So, and don't rely on a single source of information. Like I've said, there's plenty of instances where I've been where people misquote their own transportation company's information, their own government's information. I have, because of all the work and the research that we've been doing, I've been able to help governments realize where some of their websites aren't displaying the information correctly. And you know what? Your veterinarian, you don't have to kind of ask, they're not going to be the ones that are going to answer everything for you, but include them in the conversation from the beginning, because they're the ones that are going to be able to help you get your vaccines in order as well in advance, or any other travel treatments that you might need. And they're a huge part of this process of travel. And while they might not want to take all the hours to do all the paperwork for you, they do care about your animal a lot, and they want to make sure that your animal is okay to travel. And so things like making sure their heart's okay to be able to travel is really important. So definitely including the veterinarian, and you have your digital copies, you have everything in one place, you follow all the rules, you follow the steps, this brings down your... I remember we were talking about training the humans before. It trains the humans to be better at traveling as well, right? So that's the takeaway, the mistakes, and then how to prep. I would say, give yourself time. Don't think we want to get every pet traveling, but we also realize that not every trip is
going to be possible for every pet to travel. So take your time, sign up early, and start to do the work a little early. Reach out to us. We're happy to help at PadsPass. And, it is kind of amazing when you get to travel with an animal. It's so rewarding.
Yeah, I just want to throw out there, because I since I know about this one from experience, Hawaii also is rabies free. And you literally have to start 4 months in advance before you're going to travel to Hawaii, if not longer, because your animal, like you said, it has to have a rabies shot, but they have a requirement. It has to have that shot or 2 shots or something like. Anyway, several months in advance of going there. And if you don't do that, then your animal will be quarantined, because that's how they're keeping rabies off of the islands. So, so research before you travel. There's some countries that still won't, depending, I don't know, because this has been several years ago that I had heard this, but there's still some countries, I think, that may not even allow your pet to come in. So you really need to do some research ahead of time before you guys, whatever country you're going to see, like Lauren's saying, what requirements and stuff like that are. And I would say, because I was going to just ask if you thought there was anything airlines or governments could do to make pet travel safer or more humane, but obviously getting the correct information on the government or the country websites, whichever it may be, would be one of the bigger things, I would think. So unfortunately, like you experience, sometimes there's not the correct information, and so you may have to do even more due diligence when you're looking into that stuff. But so,
or you could, I'm going to be so biased right now, Lori, or you could just sign up for PadsPass.
Yeah,
we can do it for you.
Well, yeah, exactly. There you go.
And then going back to the one point you made, though, about what governments and airlines could do, we have some really exciting things on the horizon for 2026. Sadly, I can't talk about them too much right now, but we're definitely going to be looking at piloting a QR code-based transit system with some of those agencies that you mentioned in 2026. So
awesome.
The future of travel is definitely furry, and it's also definitely digital. If anything, not for the fact that like your dog could eat your vaccine paperwork, and then where are you going to start, or where are you going to be at?
Yeah, and I was actually going to ask you, here in a minute, what was next for PadsPass, what new features, global expansions, or any kind of partnerships. But so it sounds like you've got some things in the work coming out here in next year. So people should be excited about some of that stuff that you're going to have coming out.
Yeah, we're trying to make it easy for everyone. Like I said, we want to be an ally for the airlines, for the check-in agents, just like my heart goes out to veterinarians, my heart also goes out to the check-in agent, even though I fear them. They definitely put the fear of God into me whenever I'm about to walk up to a desk, because, at the end of the day, they're the ones that can make or break your trip, right? And for a lot of them, they're not always actually connected to the airline. Sometimes they're outsourced, and so they're just going off of what's on the computer and the resources that they have. And so they're also at a very unfair disadvantage at times, because they have to make decisions about whether an animal can board or not, but they're not given all the information, right? And so what we're looking to do, and what we're going to hopefully be piloting in the new year, is kind of making a more uniformed approach to that, right? So having, a dynamic, time-based kind of mobile pass each time you travel that's custom to your trip. And so they don't even have, there's no questions asked. There's 2 green check marks that say your vaccines are up to date, any treatments are good. And if they need to access more information, they have the authority and the capability to be able to do that with what we're building. So I think that to me, that really excites me, because what was it? October I was flying back. And thank goodness I had a savvy person on the check-in desk, because she goes, guess what? There's no information on this computer right now. I know that there's requirements for you to go to Bermuda, but I'm going to have to call someone and ask them. And I was like, okay, that's fine. I feel like, she was doing everything right, and she could have just said computer says no, because literally computer said no.
Yeah.
Computer had nothing, right?
Right.
So we're looking to kind of be that go-between, that ally, and just that making it easier for everyone. One of my colleagues loves to say, we're clear for pets. So if you can think of how easy it is to go through clear, that's what we're aiming for.
Right. So Lauren, could you say what has surprised you the most about your startup journey so far, and what milestones is PadsPass most proud of since you guys have launched?
So one of the surprises for me is that and I think this is very interesting, and especially for anyone who does travel with your pet, is the near misses that you don't realize you even missed, right? Because you just got lucky, because you followed enough of the rules and enough of the things worked out, and you got that good check-in agent, and you got the flight attendant that was fine with it, or you got the government person who was like, yeah, okay, that's fine, but it is an obstacle course to travel, and I'm so happy for the people that have never had to think about that or stress about that and haven't had that experience. But also, I worry for you, because at some point that day might come. And this is a universal challenge across all countries, across all income levels. Like, honestly, what happened to me, there was no amount of money I could have paid for them to not take Paddington from me. Right. I even asked, I said, could I go with you to go with her? Like, can I just be locked up with her? And I was like, that was not an option.
Put me in jail with her.
Lori. Yeah.
Put me in jail.
I was like, I will go with, I don't care. Like, and they're like, you're not allowed to. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. Sometimes you have to follow the health rules. And that's the way it is. And so, we're that peace of mind when it comes to travel. And another great analogy I love is we're like TurboTax for pet travel, right? It just automatically does it all for you,
Yep.
And so we have some great early adopters that are veterinarians. We've had amazing support working and piloting our prototype with the Bermuda government veterinarian here, and then we've had veterinarians in the U.S. that have been kind of singing our praises, and veterinarians starting to onboard. If you're a veterinarian or you have a veterinary practice, you can go to PadsPass.com and go to veterinary practices, and you can onboard for free to our software checkpoint. It doesn't have to integrate with your software. It's super easy to use. Basically, just make sure that your patient management system, like how you have your records, just matches the records for our users when they're traveling, and then you press the green button, and then we figure out the travel for them. So we kind of take all of that burden and ease off for you. And then, we've had some great supporters here in Bermuda specifically, because when you travel here, you have to fly off. Like, there's no other option. You don't get to drive. I know so many pet parents in the U.S. that have done those long drives, so they're not separated from their pets, right?
Right.
And I think that's amazing. But, here you have to fly. So we've had wonderful, warm reception of early adopters here traveling, just wanting to make it easier, not be so paper-based, not be so confusing. I think we did the Bermuda Accelerator program here with the Ignite program that I mentioned, and we've been getting some industry recognition with some different agencies, which is pretty impressive for how small we are and how we're still growing. And I can't wait to see the next jurisdiction that we add. What's coming in, because it's going to land in January. Don't know which one it's going to be yet, but it's wherever it is. It's like the more places we add, the more we get to travel with our pets, and that's really what makes me happy.
And it's funny, you were just talking about, these long drives with our pets. So back in July, my mother passed away, and she lives in Michigan, and I live in Arizona. And as I said before the show, I have a senior dog who's around 17, and my son also has a senior dog. And, number one, we've only flown once, and he has sworn to God he's never going to fly again. He didn't really like it. But we were kind of like, I'm not going to leave my old dog in a boarding facility for a couple weeks while, we're going to Michigan. So we rented a motorhome, and we both took our senior dogs with us. And I had to make sure, we have our rabies certificates and things like that, just in case. I mean, driving through the United States isn't as big of a deal, obviously, as flying and then going internationally and stuff like that as well. But you just never know when you're going to need, to have that kind of information with you. So I get it. Yeah, driving and
Lori,
having that info.
It doesn't get talked about enough, actually, and I love that you brought that up, is because people are like, I'm just going from one state to the next. I don't need a rabies certificate, right?
Yeah, you do.
Rabies is carried, one of the animals that carries rabies is raccoons in the U.S., which is pretty interesting. But do you know what a veterinarian has to do if an animal has been suspect of rabies because they've had a bite and they can't prove that that they've been vaccinated?
12 years of animal control, I know exactly what they have to do because I've had to do it. So, yes, I do know exactly what they have to do. Would you like to say it, or would you like me to explain it?
I can say it because, when we talk about near misses, you think like, oh, you missed a flight because you didn't get to board on something, right? Like, boo-hoo, like, that's so inconvenient, right? Like, what could PadsPass really do that could actually, like, help or support you, right? Like, but even driving, if your animal was, at a dog park or something, at a rest stop, if there was any question that your animal was attacked by an animal that could have rabies, and you can't prove that your animal has been vaccinated for rabies, and your animal gets taken into animal control or to a veterinarian, they have to euthanize your animal, and then they have to decapitate it and send it off for testing. And that is like the worst thing. If there's one thing that you do to take care of your animal's health, it's just make sure that you have their vaccines on hand. Like, honestly, like, I don't even care if you use PadsPass or not, but like, to me, that there's nothing worse than thinking of that. And it's heartbreaking to think that like, all because you didn't have a piece of paper or something on your phone, right?
So I got very well versed in rabies, obviously animal control for 12 years, but I got very well versed with rabies because we actually have a rabies epidemic in the county that, in the area I was assigned in the county where I live, and it went on for almost a year. And I got to know the state health veterinarians here in Phoenix, Arizona on a first name basis. We were very familiar with each other because so raccoons, skunks, and bats are the three biggest carrier, for rabies, and fox can have it too. And it just depends, and they can cross variants. So if a bat bites a fox, the bat can give a fox the bat variant of rabies, and vice versa. So it's very interesting. But yes, if your dog or whatever gets attacked by a wild animal, and you cannot provide that animal to be tested, your dog can be euthanized and, decapitated, because it is the brain that needs to be tested for the rabies. You also would have a choice of having your animal quarantined for 6 months to see, because with that being said, rabies would show up within 6 months. Of being attacked. So you can have an animal quarantined for a 6-month period to see if rabies shows up. If you're lucky and it does not, then you would have your animal vaccinated, yada, yada. But let me just tell you how expensive it is to quarantine your animal for 6 months. Most people cannot afford the price that a vet or a shelter even will, and then you're leaving, if you're in another state, you have to leave your animal there for that 6 months to be quarantined. So the upside is if you are able to get the animal that, or if your pet is vaccinated for rabies, you still have to face some things. If they're vaccinated and a wild animal bites them and you don't know if it has rabies, it's a booster shot for the rabies vaccination and then a 45-day quarantine. So again, depending on what's going on, it can also be expensive even for 45 days. But, a lot of people don't realize, they really think that, it could just be a blood test. No, that is not how they test for rabies. And believe me, like I said, I went through a year of having animals tested, not necessarily the dogs and stuff like that, but, the skunks and the raccoons and bats and stuff like that. People don't realize what can happen if they don't have their animals vaccinated, and a wild animal gets them, and you can't prove rabies or not rabies. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it is a big thing. So if anything at all, make sure your animal's vaccinated.
Yeah, like it's a completely preventable incident, right? And I think that goes back to the kind of the core of pet travel looks different. Pet travel has different requirements, right? When you travel and you change and you move away from your area or like your boundaries or your jurisdiction, like the health requirements are different and they change. It's not just like the normal care that you get when you're home, right? At least if you never traveled and you never went anywhere and you were just nearby, you could go to your veterinarian. At least all of your records are there, right? But we're a global society now. We're constantly moving, and all of your records, like you have to try and get them. And so that's an interesting trend that a lot of veterinarians that I know that are seeing, is that pet parents want to have their animals' data. They want to be in charge of it, and their health records, rather than trying to kind of piecemeal it from the different practices they've been to and having them transferred, right? Like they want to be able to have it all in their hand. And so even if you get the free version of PadsPass, and just upload the documents just to kind of store them all there, please do. And also we would love your user feedback too. And if, a natural disaster, we haven't even touched on that, but a natural disaster comes, whether it's a forest fire or a hurricane in my situation, and you got to go quickly, you got to have all your stuff on you in order to do that, and right nowadays the easiest thing that you have is your phone, or, have things digital. So, I can't stress enough that there's so many preventable incidents that you can do just by kind of, organizing yourself and putting your pet's health first especially when it comes to travel.
And it's funny that you just touched on the the natural disasters and stuff like that, because I was just thinking, I had a emergency veterinarian on the podcast with me a while back, and even with that, I mean, if something happens where your pet has an emergency, and you go in, if you can get into your regular vet, and they can't take care of that situation, and they're sending you to an emergency vet, I mean, it would be helpful to have that information, for whatever medications your pet might be on, the vaccination records, that kind of stuff. I mean, obviously, if you've had to have some kind of x-rays or something done, and believe me, people ask for that information before you leave your vet's office to go to an emergency vet, because there's situations where you think, they can just transfer that information over. No, they can't, because those computer systems sometimes are not compatible, and one vet cannot get that information to the other vet, and so you may now have to pay double if you've had to have x-rays or whatever, or they may not be able to get that information to be able to save your pet's life. So that's another good instance that you could have that information right there available.
Yeah, there's so many ways that we can we could talk for ages, right? But I think at the end of the day, we want to give pets the same dignity in travel systems as we do people, and that can also in health systems, right? As humans, we want to kind of have our records too, right? So why don't we want the same for our pets? Right,
exactly. That's a good point. So one last quick question. How do you hope PadsPass is going to change the pet travel landscape in the next few years?
I want safe pet travel to be the norm and not the exception. And I also want it to be easy. And when I say easy, I don't mean tearing down all the requirements and everything that's there. I just want it to be easy in the sense that it's just straightforward and manageable for people to see and to understand it, for the different people that have to do the checks or interact with the pet parent and the animal. It's easier for them as well. I want to reduce the preventable pet travel incidents that can and do exist as part of making it easier. And I really would love to shift the industry from being reactive to proactive. How can we, great example, would love if an airline took this on board. Pet fees. Let's talk about pet fees. some people, like, I don't mind paying the pet fee, to have my dog with me in cabin, right? But is there an easier way to do it? Can we use miles? Can we prepay for it? Can we use a gift
miles
card?
would be great.
Miles would be awesome, right? Like, I would fly with that airline that always let me pay for my pet and cabin fee with miles.
Hey, you know what? You've got contacts. Maybe you should tell the airline that.
But, how can we think of the traveling pet parent as a high-value customer? Because they do end up paying for a lot more. I mean, our own research that we did, we learned that on average, people who travel with their pets will spend around $500 per trip on their pet.
Right.
So they're not. Now, it's not to say that I don't love a good budget trip as well, and that some things are overinflated. But what I am saying is that, pet travel isn't the most inexpensive thing, and we should be taking, as the pet parents who are paying for those fees, we should be taken into consideration for that. So it would be great if people started looking at it as this is actually, I think Amadeus, the travel company, came out with a great bit of thought leadership, and they called it the paw print economy. People are starting to take notice when it comes to travel, that people are traveling with their pets, and they end up spending a lot more on their pets when it comes to travel at times. So I would love I want the industry to definitely embrace the paw print economy, and how we can all help and support and make pet travel safe, easy, and compliant as well.
Right, exactly. And I just want to throw something out real quick. It's not really about PadsPass stuff, but if you guys do fly with your pets, always make sure to take some extra treats and maybe a little extra bag of dog food or something, because you just never know when you might have a layover or a delay for whatever reason, and you might want to have that extra stuff in case you need to feed your pet. It's always good to have some extra stuff to take with you just in case. You never know. Yep,
you need to learn to surrender some of your carry-on baggage when you travel with a pet, I should say, as well, for that food, for the things, the just-in-case stuff that you need, because it is really important that you have that with you, because otherwise you can find yourself stuck in an airport for a very long period of time and a very hungry animal.
Yep, exactly. So, well, Lauren, it has been great having you on tonight to talk about all of this and this wonderful app that you've come up with to help people in their travels with their pets, and all the other great things that we mentioned you can use the PadsPass app for. So one more time, why don't you go ahead and throw your website information out there. And don't forget, guys, if you go to the website and you want to get the digital pass, then you can get $50 off if you use the code CallingCreatures50.
Yes, that is absolutely right, Lori. So CallingCreatures50, you go to PadsPass.com/digital pet passport. It'll bring you directly to the page where you can use the checkout link to subscribe. If you select digital pet passport and you click the subscribe button, and under the coupon code, put in CallingCreatures50. You have to do it before it hits 2026. And you'll get $50 off a 1-year subscription. And then as we add locations, as we add extra features, as we continue to grow the platform, you get all of that for that one same price. And others then have to probably pay a bit more. So get in at 2025 rates. I love talking with you, Lori. Your experience and your perspective is just so refreshing. And thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. Like I said, it's really great information for people that are going to travel, and I'm so glad that you came up with this app, because I can just see in the future how much it's going to make people's life and pets' lives so much easier when they have to travel and go places. So thank you so much for coming up with that. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that with Paddington, though, to think of this.
She left an amazing legacy.
Yeah.
So we should all, we can all thank Pads for this, because without her, we'd all still be dealing with the struggle of the fractured system. So things happen for a reason, and so grateful that they did, because, life is already getting easier for me traveling with it now.
Oh, I'm sure. It's You travel so much that I'm sure this has been such a great help for you, even though you still got the folder that broke.
Okay. I can't wait to get rid of it.
Yeah, I'll bet. All right. Well, Lauren, thank you again for being on tonight. I'm just going to go ahead and announce my next couple of upcoming podcasts after the New Year. So you are more than welcome to jump off because I know it's late for you in Bermuda. And again, I enjoyed speaking with you too and learning so much more about PadsPass.
Thanks, Lori.
All right. You have a good night.
You too.
All right. Bye. All right, everybody. So I hope you enjoyed the conversation tonight with Lauren. That was a lot of really good information that she was able to give us about that app she created and why and everything and what all it can help you do. So, guys, hopefully you will go visit the website and go for the digital passport and use that code that she gave out, Calling Creatures 50, and get $50 off. But don't forget, you've got to do it before January 1st because otherwise you're going to end up paying the whole price. So check it out and get it. If you travel, I think it's definitely worth the money, for the app because it's going to make your life so much easier. And believe me, I've heard so many people say all these different things and how crazy it is to try to travel with their pets. So having that information right there is going to be awesome for you guys. All right, so like I said, I am going to be off for the next couple weeks due to Christmas and New Year's. So the next podcast is not going to be until January 8th. And then I am going to have Arthur von Weisenberger on with me. And Arthur is the producer-host of Animal Zone. And Animal Zone, he talks about all sorts of different animal advocacy. They have over 130 episodes. It's a platform for sharing stories of animal advocacy, rescue efforts, and, bonds between humans and animals. Arthur covers a wide range of topics, kind of like I do as well. And he's been filming shows throughout the U.S., and he's now including some episodes from, some international locations. So I'm really excited to have Arthur come on the show and talk with me about Animal Zone and being an advocate for animal welfare. So I can't wait for that one. And again, that one will be on January 8th. And then on January 22nd, I'm going to have Dr. Cliff Redford on the show. He's actually known as the Worldwide Vet, and he does a lot of different, not only like domestic animals and pets at his clinic and stuff like that. He also does wildlife medicine and surgery. He spends his days taking care of pets at his clinic, and then his off hours he spends rescuing animals across the globe. In fact, not too long ago, more recently, he was just out on a globe-trotting mission with his daughter, volunteered in several different countries to help save wildlife and share their stories and stuff like that. So I can't wait to have Dr. Cliff on as well because I think this is going to be another really good podcast talking about all these different things that he does, helping out with wildlife and animal rescues, adoptions, advocacy, and wildlife conservation that he, helps out with. So, and, Dr. Cliff does a lot of that in on his vacation time. Because he's, working at his pet clinic during the day. So looking forward to those podcasts. So don't forget, January 8th is Arthur von Weisenberger. And again, he's the executive director, host of Animal Zone. And then on January 22nd, Dr. Cliff Redford, the Worldwide Vet, to come on and talk about all these really great things that he does as a vet when working with the wildlife and advocating and wildlife conservation and stuff like that. So looking forward to talking with those two gentlemen. I think those are going to be some really good podcasts as well. So again, I hope you guys all enjoyed the podcast tonight. I know we went a little bit over, but it was such a great discussion with Lauren, and I wanted to get as much information out there as we could and share some of the stories that we did. So, and again, don't forget, guys, get your animals vaccinated for rabies, because you really don't want to have to go through some of these things if your animal gets attacked by something that's wild and you can't prove if it has rabies or not. So, and with that being said, I hope you guys all stay safe out there this weekend. I hope you all have a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, whatever you may celebrate for Christmas. If you don't celebrate Christmas, just have a happy time. Be with family and friends. And remember, guys, kindness, it goes a lot farther than anger and, those kinds of things. So, anyway, you guys all have a good night, and don't forget to come back on January 8th to listen to the next podcast. All right, bye now. Oh, I almost forgot. Have a Happy New Year, too, guys. All right, now it's literally bye now.